So my building skills are a bit rusty, and I've been looking for a new series idea that doesn't take 2 weeks per episode, and I thought this would be nice. And by the way, this was indeed inspired by Jaren's video of him building for 30 days. But other than that, let's get into the video. For day 1, I decided to do just a simple hut/base. I wanted to start off pretty simple with the design, so I built pillars. I decided to go more on the flat side for the roof so it could have that hut feel. But honestly, it's not too shabby, but I could really improve. For day 2, however, I decided to go big or go home. I started off with big walls, which I was going to put land on top of to give the elevated land feel. And to be honest, dark oak does go with tough bricks pretty well. I then started putting on another elevated platform where I would put the final structure on. After adding some fence design in the staircase, the platform was finally done. I then added a little house on top, as well as a staircase up and a pathway leading to the main structure. And that concludes day 2's build, which I obviously named the Tough Temple. Day 3, I decided to make a temple, but while designing it, I realized I should put it on a stone brick platform, so that's what I did. I made the actual temple out of cherry wood, and I tried layering the floors. It turned out a bit small, but I added some design, and the final build was not too bad. But for day 4, however, I learned a bunch of new stuff about building that I was going to incorporate in this build. I decided I wanted it to be a big windmill, and with a good plan in my head, I started with the base and built up. I was having a bit of trouble deciding what would look best, but this seemed pretty nice. I then started on the blades, which were really difficult to design, but the final build came out absolutely awesome. I even added an interior design with bookshelf stairs and a top floor which you can get up with a ladder. Now, for day 5, I wanted it to be huge and beautiful, so I started to outline a huge house that I was going to build. I was having a bit of trouble deciding what was going to go where, but I did decide on something final. I then worked on the roof, which was pretty challenging, and it took a very long time perfecting my design. But nevertheless, it turned out pretty great. I then worked on the walls, which were pretty challenging, but I had a good idea in mind. And I tried adding texture to the design, something I've never really done before. But after a few minutes, the exterior was completely done, so I decorated the inside. But once I finished, the house looked pretty awesome, and this was the build for day 5. Day 6, I decided I wanted to play around with the different types of roofs, and I chose to make a barn. And so as I started, I chose to use a palette of calcite, diorite, and quartz for the roof outline, as well as mangrove planks and logs for the walls. I also think it's super cool how by just adding a bit of variation to the walls could completely transform your build from a noob build to an incredible masterpiece. But once I was done with the walls and roof, I started designing the stables for the animals to live in. Using trapdoors with other blocks is hard while flying because you have to hold crouch and jump at the same time to be crouching midair. But the design I chose actually turned out to be great, and with some path textures and animals added, this barn was a masterpiece. And now, we get to day 7. And no, I wasn't going to go simple, I was going to go extreme and huge. Not as big as my mansion, but I wanted to have castle walls surrounding a tavern in the middle where you could buy food and hang out. Creating the walls did take some time, especially when I was adding texture to the walls, and that took so long. After a while of texturing and building up the walls, I started on the actual tavern. I chose an A-frame roof just like the mansion, but I was going to make it more beautiful by mixing dark oak with prismarine. I also added little side structures so I can put dining tables inside. I then worked on the walls, which didn't take too long because of commands. Texturing it got super boring, and I eventually got through it. I then changed the floor and added some decorations and dining tables. After this, I used my previous path design and put it all around the tavern and made it lead outside the walls. I was then amazed by the final result of the day 7 build. And that's the exact moment I realized I didn't even know half the stuff about building I do now. It's crazy how much 7 days of building can make. I never learned so much about Minecraft as I have in the making of this video. So, what if I learned about redstone?